everybody, and welcome back to the Good Trash Garbage Shoot, where members of the Good Trash Media team get out to the new releases that are playing in theaters or now streaming on platforms that you may be subscribed to. And today's movie is just that, as I will be taking a look at Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery. Now on Netflix, as you are watching this, having maybe just seen that, following a limited theatrical run. This is, again, the third in the Knives Out series from Rian Johnson. And so I'm going to give you a synopsis of the film, talk a bit about its production, and then I'm going to give you some thoughts on the movie itself. And so let's start with the synopsis from Netflix. Are you ready for Benoit Blanc's most dangerous case yet? Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery is the third film featuring the Southern Fried detective created by writer-director Rian Johnson. We first met Blanc in 2019's Knives Out when he was hired to investigate the death of best-selling author Harlan Thrombey. In that film, Blanc teamed up with nurse Marta Cabrera to uncover the truth in a twisted case filled with angry relatives, red herrings, and fabulous knitwear. Blanc's skills were called upon once more in Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, when he headed to Greece to peel back the layers of intrigue surrounding tech billionaire Miles Braun and an eclectic group of disruptors. Blanc was last seen sitting on the beach of Braun's island estate, calmly pondering the chaotic events of his past few days. This time around, Blanc travels to a small church in upstate New York, where a murder that defies all logic sets the detective on his most personal case to date. Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery, is rated PG-13 for a language and sexual content. It is approximately 2 hours and 20 minutes in length, and it stars Daniel Craig, Josh Brolin, Glenn Close, Josh O'Connor, Thomas Hayden Church, Mila Kunis, Jeremy Renner, and a host of others. If you are familiar with the Knives Out films, there is, of course, a celebrity ensemble following Daniel Craig's name. And so here we are with the third entry in this franchise. Knives Out came out in 2019, I believe. So now, almost 7 years later, we're on the third film in this series. Knives Out is a beloved movie for me. I think it is a fantastic deconstruction of the murder mystery genre, of those Agatha Christie-style locked room mysteries. I think it does a great job subverting expectations, both in casting and in narrative, and then delivers an emotionally satisfying conclusion when Benoit Blanc tells Marta that she is a good nurse and a good person. I love it. I love Knives Out. I rewatched it earlier this year, and I think it is I think it just works. It really does. Rian Johnson, who got his start with the sort of neo-noir film Brick, with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, is no stranger to these sort of mystery films. Obviously, his greatest sort of commercial acclaim is The Last Jedi, which, depending on where you land with that, I guess may inform your opinions of Rian Johnson. I think he is a solid filmmaker, and I don't know that he's done much better than the Knives Out films. Glass Onion was okay. I thought it was humorous in bits, but I thought it was too close to the original film to really stand apart or stand out. And I'm almost always concerned when any filmmaker signs a deal with Netflix. Very, very few times have filmmakers gone and done their best work on Netflix. And so I was kind of concerned. But now here we are with the third entry, Wake Up Dead Man. I want to share my thoughts with you. I'm going to try not to spoil it. As it's a plotty movie, there's a lot happening in this movie, and it's a lot different from the previous entries, I think, in this series. Obviously, Craig is incredible as Benoit Blanc. I think Benoit Blanc is a fun character in the tradition of Hercule Poirot or Sherlock Holmes or any of these deductive investigative types. Sean Spencer, you Psych fans out there. Wake Up Dead Men, though, the premise is interesting. Setting this within a church, those ideas of theology and faith and Christendom and culture, I think are fun talking points. Obviously, it, much like the other two films, is, Johnson engaging with the politics of the now. And so one of those ideas is of, Christian nationalism and what that looks like. Is that a thing? And that does sort of underscore this, as Josh Brolin's priest character does fill in as a figure representing pastors who seem to put America first, or put certain ideals first that may not necessarily align with the Bible in some regards. And so, he is the great antagonist of the film. And Josh O'Connor is really the heart and soul of the film as a boxer turned priest who is trying to outrun his past and just wants to love his neighbor as Jesus loved the world. And I think it's a beautiful character. Really, the first 40 minutes or so of this film are Josh O'Connor. It is him setting up what's going on, what the mystery is. We see Blanc in the opening shot, and then we don't see him again till about 45 minutes into the film, when the mystery fully unfolds and we figure out why we're all gathered for this. It takes a much darker tone than previous entries in this franchise. My wife and I sat down to watch, and there's comedy, but not the same sort of comedy that underscores the other two films. It is much more serious. It is really thinky. It is really grappling with some ideas, I think, in interesting ways. And so I enjoy it because thematically, again, I'm interested in mysteries. It is a genre that is, how do we do it again? And so I think he does it well here, and it fits in that sort of pulpy detective style and works. Benoit Blanc kind of taking side saddle here and sitting back and letting others shine is appropriate. But again, one of the big pulls of these movies are these ensembles, right? And we've got a strong ensemble here. Again, Glenn Close, Jeremy Renner, Kerry Washington, Andrew Scott, Kaylee Spaney, Jeffrey Wright. They all show up and they all get to have moments, but it doesn't feel like an ensemble piece in the same way the previous two films did. It feels much more like they're cogs in the machine of this story. They don't all get much to do. Renner may have a bit more to do than Andrew Scott. Glenn Close probably gets the most to do. Thomas Hayden Church gets some to do. It really is kind of a three-hander of O'Connor, Brolin, and Craig. And then everybody else is sort of just filling in the pieces in a way that's not necessarily representative of the ensemble work in the previous two films. And so they're fun, but I don't know that you couldn't get away with just casting smaller actors or character actors in a lot of those roles, But part of the expectation, I think, with these films is to have an all-star ensemble cast, and it's fun. It is, it's cool to see Renner, Hawkeye and Thanos showing up here to, take on James Bond or whatever. So there's something cool about that. But ultimately, I don't know that the ensemble cast and the star power adds much to this entry. Josh O'Connor's making a name for himself, coming out of Challengers last year, and he's doing good work. He's got 2 or 3 movies out this year, I believe. And so it's cool to see his career growing, much in the same ways Ana de Armas's career was growing after Knives Out. And she really blew up following that film. I think that we're seeing really something special with him and his career, and I'm excited to see where Josh O'Connor goes. And he's very much the heart of this film, and it works largely because of him and his connection to this character and how he draws that out and how he brings that out. There's one very poignant moment where they are trying to hurry because of the investigation, and Blanc is trying to rush Josh O'Connor's character Judd, and Judd is trying to get information from somebody, and that person sort of breaks down and reveals something very personal, and priest Father Judd has to decide, do I pursue the case, or do I do my priestly duty and hear this woman out and pray for her? And that's cool. I don't know. I think Father Judd is a good presentation of what a minister should be. And I think O'Connor does that very well. I think that the mystery is pretty convoluted, more so than the other two here, but it's fun. I think it feels very pulpy in the tradition of some of these pulp noir detective novels of the 40s and 50s or earlier, and I go for it. I think it's curious to see how it plays out, and I think it's laid out in a pretty interesting fashion. Overall, I'll get to some negatives here in a second, but overall, I think I don't think it's as good as Knives Out, the original film. I think it's stronger than Glass Onion. I like where it delineates and moves away from some of the formula. I like that it is tonally a little darker here. In the filmmaking, there's some fun stuff with lighting and production design that's really cool. And so those things are really working for it. I think negatively, there are just some shots that look bad. There are some exteriors that just don't look good. And they're set up with establishing shots to be on location outside or in fields or whatever, and then they're close-ups and it looks like they're matted on a green screen, and it doesn't look good at all. The lighting's off and the background's different, and it just looks bad, I think. And so there are a few moments of that where I'm very distracted by the background, and I think that's a Netflix thing. Earlier this year when I talked about Frankenstein from Guillermo del Toro, I discussed the way in which some of it just doesn't look very good, and I think a lot of that is just the Netflix of it all, which is unfortunate, especially more so if they decide to buy Hollywood, which looks to be their goal maybe, unfortunately, and I think we should be concerned about that. But Wake Up Dead Men, a Netflix mystery, is now streaming on Netflix. I think it's worth your time, especially if you like murder mysteries, or if you like films wrestling with faith and the culture. I think it's going to scratch those itches. It is a little long at 2:20. I think maybe a little unnecessarily long at 2:20. But again, Benoit Blanc's a fun character. I think this is a fun next step. I would honestly just, if you're new to the franchise, watch Knives Out and watch this, and then get to Glass Onion if you can. Glass Onion feels pretty inconsequential in the overall scheme of things. But I think Wake Up Dead Man is a good time. It's a good mystery, good cast. I really dig this one. So check it out if you get a chance, and let me know what you think. You can send that feedback to goodtrashgenrecast@gmail.com, or drop some comments down there for me to read. Until next time, I'll see you down the chute.